Good morning. Welcome to this week's Member Showcase. Today I'm joined by the gorgeous Gail Hugman. She's the founder of Lessons Alive, and Gail works with school-age children through personalised one-to-one teaching sessions, helping them truly flourish, not just academically, but as confident, capable individuals. Gail is amazing. Alongside her work with children, she also publishes insightful books for parents, because often it's the parents that need the help, not the children, offering a deeper understanding of how we can better support young people in today's education system. So if you are going to tune into this one and you've got young kids, this one really is for you. And Gail has built something that's quietly breaking new ground in education. I'm looking forward to exploring that with her. So welcome, Gail. It's always lovely to see you. As I said to you, I think you're channeling Artemis with your background, aren't you, today? We're staying with the space theme, but I'm guessing you want to always have something that's going to keep certainly the school-age children amused and entertained, aren't you? If you put them in a boring white office, it's not going to be much fun.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. So let's kick off. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do and who you support? I've obviously given a bit of an intro, but fill us in on all the details.
Well, I started 21 years ago, and I left teaching in London schools because I didn't want a headship. And I thought there was a gap between what children have to do at school and what children want to do. And I wanted to find out what it was that caused that gap to exist and that caused children to switch off. And so when I started, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but
Yeah.
what has developed is a particular assessment that I use to see how a child will perform in the classroom. So I look at their memory skills, their organization skills, their listening skills, the reading, the comprehension, and I look at all that before I take a child on. And I also talk to the parent about their life, the child's life from birth, because any great trauma, as I see it, there's a natural line of development that if you just fed a child and slept and we were in an ideal world and they could just be themselves all the time, would be fantastic. And that line of development is automatic. But there's a different line of development, which I tell the children is their world life. And that line of development is what they need to learn to be able to be purposeful and useful in the world today. So there are two lives living alongside each other in each child, and the natural life doesn't really understand the second life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I bridge that gap in helping them to learn.
So when you are looking at these different skills, you said memory, listening. How do you do that? Is that something that you do with the children? Is that a questionnaire? What does that look like
I,
in reality?
well, all of my assessments start with juggling. And I say to the children, can you juggle? And they say yes or no. A very few say yes. And you'd be amazed how many children of primary age, I mean, 10, 9, 8, cannot throw a ball, throw and catch a ball.
Yeah.
And coordination is so important in brain development. So the first activity that I do with them is the juggling. And this breaks their expectation because they often say, oh, she's going to give me more work.
Oh, it's going to be boring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going
yeah.
to be
And
boring. And
suddenly you're like, this is,
yes.
yeah,
And then I explain to them that juggling stimulates the same part of the brain that does mental maths. And so if they juggle, their mental maths will improve. And hey ho, it works. And so I give them, and I say to them, so your homework this week is 3 minutes juggling every night. I have no problem with homework.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah, people are like, I want to do it. I want to do it.
so everything I do with them, and I'll give them memory activities, memory of known things, the brain, a young brain. And when I say young, I mean before puberty. A young brain can remember 7 things at a time. So I'm always saying to mums, cut down your instructions to 7 words, because otherwise
Yeah,
you say, go and do this and get that, and then come back here. you'll find that they're playing with Lego in their bedroom because they've completely forgotten what you said.
Yeah,
So, it's about understanding how the brain works and what the brain needs, and that if we focus on that rather than get your maths done, get your homework done, do this, do that, then we get a much better result. My life has been so much easier.
but if a child comes to you and they are and I guess I don't know whether it's a scoring system you use, but you aren't able to help them. Are you able to point them in different directions
Yes.
for, yeah,
If I have in the past said to parents, have you ever had this child tested for dyslexia, for instance?
yeah,
And they are a lot of parents are in denial because they don't understand dyslexia, and they're quite frightened that their child is going to be something wrong, and they
yeah,
don't want them labeled. The thing is, dyslexia, in my experience, which is quite considerable now, every dyslexic child has a genius zone, what I call the
yeah,
genius zone. And the dyslexia only applies in a very narrow band of life, and that is the reading and writing and organization. And so I give them tools to support them with that, while I then focus on their great strength. And we
yeah,
develop that to an extent that, that's where their confidence and self-esteem is. So it is often worth, if you think a child is dyslexic, it's worth trying to get that assessment so that you understand which part of them needs that support. But I have had clients say, well, I'm going to wait and see what happens. And then the way I work means that often the children get those skills anyway, so they go without the assessment.
yeah. Oh, it happens so much. I mean, my nephew was diagnosed just before his what were the equivalent of GCSE, so just
Mm.
before, like at 15, and luckily he got some extra help for his exams. But yeah, and I guess there is a level of denial in that you don't necessarily want, you think your kid's going to be pigeonholed in a box, and
Yeah,
therefore certain things are going to happen. And unfortunately, I guess we've seen some of that in the education system.
yeah,
um the labeling of children, but as you say, if we can all find our own superpower,
yeah,
what an amazing world this will be, because we're all
absolutely.
working in that zone of genius.
Yeah.
Obviously, running a network, I'm working with business owners and women all day long that often say to me, I've got dyslexia and I've got ADHD, because they haven't fitted in that normal 9 to 5 role, and therefore they've gone out and built their own business and they've got that superpower. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what do you think's missing from children's education that you think parents and schools might be overlooking right now?
I think instead of trying to get children to, in a sense, conform or to go, we need the system. We need a system. And there's actually, if you look at the world, there's not too much wrong with it. They need to learn to read and write and do maths. Where the focus is mistaken, in my view, is if we focus on their personal development and not on ticking boxes, not on their achievement in that way. If we focus on their core skills and use the curriculum, which is what I've learned to do, so that supposing a child says, "Oh, I hate algebra." How many children? I wish I had a pound for everyone. Oh, I hate algebra.
You'd be a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. And what I've learned to say to them is, okay, well, we're not going to do that. And that relieves the pressure immediately. And I'll say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it out loud, and I just want you to watch. And I will do an algebra question and talk it through with a child. And this has actually happened in real life. And I say, now go away and do something else. And so I'm not putting any pressure on them at all, because if they are learning under pressure, they're learning by resistance, and they're actually not learning. Those
Yeah,
neural connections, the neural connections you're making are not the ones that you think you're making. And if a child isn't actually engaged and wanting to do it, then the brain won't kickstart that process. So I would say look to their personal development. Why do they do maths? And I've learned to say, well, maths is great for teaching your brain to be logical, for teaching your brain to organize things, for teaching, So we look at the skill that we're getting out of the maths, and the maths is just what's on the paper that
Yeah,
kind of
it's
is
just the
proof.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah, because I can imagine. I mean, I loved maths at school, so when people said, "Oh, let's do algebra," but I hated reading and writing. I was always told I was never very good at English, which I took with me as a belief for probably until I was 51, 52. So not that long ago, I actually thought I was really bad at English. And then I started writing stuff for my own business. And I thought, actually, I do know how to write, but that belief stayed with me for such a long time. And first round, I failed my English exams because I thought I was,
Yeah.
I believed I couldn't do it. But actually
Yeah.
understanding the reason why you learn these skills. Yeah, but I can imagine you say to a kid, let's do algebra, and they're like, when am I ever going to use that? I think that's
Yeah.
also the thing in the education system, isn't it? We're learning things because we need to learn them to pass an exam.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if we understand really why we need to know them, it's completely different. Just froze on me there for a minute. But you're all right,
Sorry.
it's okay.
My phone
Thought you
rang.
were going around the other side of the moon for a minute.
Yeah.
We lost contact for a minute. Um, So when you take that approach, do you find that the children then become quite inquisitive and they're like, oh, she's doing that algebra thing. I'm gonna see what she's up to. So you almost create a little bit of FOMO to be like, oh, I want to get involved in this now.
Well, the child that triggered me to doing that was an 11-year-old girl who was due to do 11 plus, and she had regular meltdowns. Now, our stress response is set in the first 3 years of life. That's how it develops. And so I explained to her mum, her stress response is to have a meltdown. What you need to do is do everything you can to organize her life and show her how to organize her life so that she avoids that stress. But she would come to algebra and there'd be a huge meltdown. Oh, I can't do it, and all the rest of it, history on it. And so I sat there and I said, I'll just talk you through it. And I did this. And then after a few months, I was working with her younger brother, and she came into the room and I said, oh, by the way, how's the algebra? And she said, oh, it's easy. And the thing is, it's often I will do a lesson with a child and I'll say, I don't want you to remember this. I just want you to watch. You don't have to remember a thing. I'm not going to ask you anything. And so they will watch. And it's, the same when you've got a reluctant reader and people say, oh, I cannot get my child to enjoy books. I just want them to love books. And I said, well, you choose a book that you really love. And then you sit next to your child and you point with your finger and you read it to them. And you say, I don't want you to, you're not going to read any, just, and they then relax. And because they're relaxed and because they know you're not going to spring any awkward questions on them, they take it in. And once that brain's gone over and over and over the same thing several times, then it will go, can I have a go?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like I'm missing out now. But it is,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's massively taking away all that pressure
yeah,
that is piled on to say, you kids are, I mean, my girls are 22 and almost 25 now. So I've been out of that cycle of education for a little while. But that I remember that pressure of having a busy household because I worked a full-time job and had the girls and putting dinner on the table and almost like that pressure of you've got to do your homework now because then
yes,
we've got to go to three clubs and then we've got to have dinner and then you've got to have bath time and almost like this all this pressure that built up to be like you've got to do this now and you've got to do it in the next 20 minutes. Well,
yeah,
actually, that might not be the right time for them to do that now and they feel so under
yeah.
pressure. Yeah, I can see how the confidence thing then just dives off a cliff, and then we wonder why our kids think they can't do things when actually they can.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I remember a mum arguing with her daughter, an 11-year-old daughter, because the daughter wanted to do her homework at 10 o'clock at night. And the mother, of course, was horrified and wanted it done at 5 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said to her, so what will be the consequence of her doing it at 10 o'clock? And she said, well, she won't be able to concentrate in school. So I said, let her do it. Let her do it at 10 o'clock. Let her learn that. And I said, she's better off learning that lesson now
Yeah.
than waiting until she's 25 and she's got her own flat to look after, And the thing is that she did let the child do it at 10 o'clock. And then the child very sheepishly confessed to me that she was really tired and
Yeah.
you know,
But we don't let the kids learn in the way that they need to learn, do we? I think
yeah,
we're so overprotective of
yeah.
of making sure that their life, of course we want our kids to have an amazing life and we want to take care of them, but we've also got to let them learn that actually if they do it their way, maybe it's not the best way. It might not be a wrong way, but there may be a better approach that they can then try the next time. But we're so busy trying to control everything that we don't allow that time and space for that to happen. Yeah, I know I've been absolutely guilty of that. Um,
Well,
yeah.
it's you have no guideline. As a
No.
parent, all you've got is your own upbringing and your friends, and it's not based in anything. It's just
Yeah.
based. So my approach is, what is this human being? How does it work? What does it need to be in the 20? Because majority of parents now, their childhood was completely different to their
Yeah, it
children.
was. Yeah.
So it doesn't apply. And that's the difficulty they're running into. They're doing their best. Every parent I meet is doing their best. You can see the sweat pouring off the brow,
Yeah.
And I just go, okay, let's calm down. Let's take a different approach. So I help parents as well to look at it
Yeah.
differently.
Which really leads really nicely onto me asking you about your books, because you
Yeah.
write books for parents, don't you?
Yes.
What inspired you to start doing that? And what types of books have you got that people, and what can people expect to get from them?
Well, I what inspired me was my head teacher originally when I resigned and said I was leaving. He said, well, before you go, I want to know what it is. So I said, what do you mean? He said, I want to know what it is you do that's different because when the children come to you, it's different.
Yeah.
And I thought about, oh, I don't know.
It's just me.
He says I do maths and English. And 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 I thought about it for a while, and then I wrote this letter to him, which turned out to be a little book because I expanded it when a friend saw it and said you should give that to parents. And it's called A Short and Simple Book for the Whys, WHY. And that's because I realized I got up one night and a child had given me a mug for Christmas that her dad had written all the things I used to say to the children. Like instead
Oh,
of telling them off, I would say, "Do you want to see your mother again, kid?" and and do you like breathing? And it was the children thought it was hilarious, and they say it again." And so this father had written it all over a mug and put some tea bags in it as a Christmas present. And I opened it and I went, "Oh, how lovely!" Then I saw all these things and I was so embarrassed. and and I was looking at it and I thought, it's not what I do, it's how I think.
so yeah.
It's how I think. And so I started to write about how I think about children. I see them right from the off to be highly intelligent. That's what a human being is. And they don't need anybody to be intelligent. They're intelligent, they're creative, they're sensitive. And so I treat them like that. And I have the utmost respect for every child, even the naughty ones, because the naughty ones are being reactive to an environment that's not
Environment.
ideal.
Yeah.
That is my
Yeah, they're
view.
the ones that are being given 25 instructions and then, you
Yeah.
know, getting to the first one and then going off and playing with Lego and the naughty child because they didn't tidy their bedroom and do the 58 other things they were asked to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Where's the best place for if any parents are watching this or anyone that wants to understand your work more, where is the best place for people to get your books from or see what books you've written? Because you've written a few books
I
and
have.
they're
The
all
first
brilliant.
one, yeah, the 100 things to learn before you're 10 is the core of most of it. And some of the lessons in there have turned children right round from going off the rails to coming back again. And then they apply to all children. I think everybody needs to know this. And that's what got me to write them down for
Yeah.
parents. So my publisher is the Endless Bookcase, and I much prefer people to go there because they get a better service.
Yeah.
All my books are there. There's 100 Things to Learn Before You're 10, a short and simple book for the wise. There's Making the Pennies Drop, which is about the core skills that the children need to develop before puberty, and then the ones that develop in secondary school, which are more critical thinking. But the brain's not ready for that younger. We
Yeah.
can ask the questions, but they're not going to develop it. And then there's Little Hum. That's a magical book.
Yeah.
And
That
that
one.
wasn't that was me walking around an exhibition and everything saying, if your child has this, use this, it will solve the problem. And there was a deep ache in me about there's more to it than this. What is it children need to know? And I went home with this deep, deep ache, thinking, what is it children need to hear? And I wrote this little hum about this longing that travels across the universe looking for an adventure. And that's how I see children. They've come to planet Earth, the space uh, travel just recently. They've been in awe of planet Earth up there, but I'm in awe of planet Earth down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every child, I came across a group of children being naughty one day because they were in a break and they were all squealing with delight. And Miss, come and see this. And there was a woodlouse giving birth. And they got all these magnifying. It was fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's like they're in awe of so much. And yet the world makes us speed up too much and we miss a lot of it.
Just knock
So
it out. So
yeah.
endless books. What I will
The
do is
Endless
I will,
Bookcase.
yeah, I will pop the link to that in the description for this video. So please do use that. Obviously, there are other places you can go and buy books,
Amazon.
but if
Yeah.
we can support those other retailers, those perhaps smaller businesses, I'm always up. I'm always up for that. I've got two of Gail's books. I've given them to friends of mine that have got younger children, and they always rave about those books. I would
Oh,
highly
that's great.
recommend you go and check them out. So if anyone is watching, listening to this, and they think, I really could benefit of some Gail in my life for my child, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
They they can message me, they can phone me for an informal chat. Um, I say to people, even now, I don't know how it works, but it works. You pay me to teach your children. You don't pay me to have coffee with me or to have a chat with me on the phone. Um, and so if they want to connect with me, I can give you my phone number to put, or message me on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy.
I'll pop your social media links in rather
Yeah.
than put your phone number on here, because people can then find you that way. And obviously go and see what you're up to, the types, because you're always popping little videos up and bits of information that are really useful for families to connect with. But do you work with kids just face to face, or do you do online as well?
Oh no, I work internationally. I've got clients around the world. So I'm online, but I only work with children face to face within that sort of 5 mile
Yeah.
radius.
Yeah. Thank you so much for but I could talk to you for hours, Gail, because I think what you do, you change lives.
Yes.
If you can get a child on the right path, help
Yeah.
them, even with something small that will move them on to, developing in the next way, you do change lives. It's always a pleasure to spend any time around you.
Thank
Um,
you.
and you've just got such a great way of working with kids and talking about things. And you're usually carrying a brain at some point that I know you walk. Whenever I see you, you've got a brain with you. But just making things so easy to understand and helping kids. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Yes. Thanks, Vicky.